Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ali Tarafdar back with a brand new video. Sitting in a park right now, so I'm not sure as to if you guys can hear me clearly. And if you can, then there's a lot of wind, but it's one of the best weathers I've seen so far. And I wanted to take this moment to speak to you guys on the context of different subjects around credit repair. You'll notice lately that the channel has dropped the segments and the amount of videos that I do, and that's due to the fact that there's actually quite a bit of things that we need to cover moving on to the months of July, August, and hopefully September. So once again, I apologize if you're hearing a lot of wind. Again, we're right in front of the water, so it's actually really beautiful, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share some insights with you guys. Important insights, obviously. And this is ultimately going to benefit you guys on your credit repair journey. A couple of things to talk about. Let's talk starting, about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? I know I pushed the aspect of trying to fix your credit through them in the past, where you guys were supposed to go sit down and file your complaints with the CFPB, file your complaints to bring information to the CFPB in reference to the things that you absolutely need to do to protect yourself against creditors, debt collectors, or the credit bureaus themselves that are not necessarily complying, that are not necessarily listening to the demands of non-compliance. So how do you leverage the CFPB? One of the biggest things that I see a lot of people do, and the biggest mistake that I see a lot of people do, is they go straight for a complaint, right? That's probably the wrong thing to do. The CFPB is very unique in the sense that they have access to a database where you can see previous complaints, right? You can go back and you can analyze previous complaints. You can understand and study what happened in the past. What are some of the areas that people were successful in terms of a resolution, and so on and so forth. What's the most common type of complaint based on the specific issue that you're having? So that complaints database is probably a gold mine that you should definitely be leveraging. And I say this is because, even though our first step by nature is simply going into the CFPB's portal and website, and our intent is to file a complaint against that credit reporting agency and or debt collector, it's important to understand the mechanism of how to leverage the CFPB effectively. So, the thing that you need to really be clear about and have direction about is how do you articulate a proper complaint with the CFPB? You always need to have a progress that you can demonstrate to the CFPB that you've done everything in your power to try to resolve the issue. A lot of times, that issue comes from the angle in which you've attempted multiple times to go directly to this creditor or credit reporting agency and trying to dispute items that are there. And as many times as you've tried to tell them that the information is inaccurate, they simply don't want to fix it. And they're being either A, negligent, or B, just very non-compliant, simply because they're using automated systems. And most times, when you're dealing with credit reporting agencies, they leverage third-party softwares, they leverage internal databases, they leverage automated dispute systems to solve the issue. And when they do that, what ends up happening is, in most cases, the creditor barely gets the full scope of exactly what the issue is. And that's simply because the CFPB doesn't necessarily, not the CFPB per se, but the protocols of the CFPB is to enforce regulations, right? That is their job and their duty. However, if a creditor doesn't get the full scope of what the investigation is all about, and the automated dispute system is just simply submitting itemized stuff and condition codes that are way too generic for that specific or particular issue that you're having, the success ratio of that dispute or investigation is threatened, right? It's not going to be successful. And if that be the case, then it's your duty to make sure that you have something that you can work with that kind of gives you more substance and grounds to get that enforcement going under the CFPB. You see what I'm saying? So how do we go about doing that? So that's the mechanism of where you have to be very, very strategic. And that's where you have to demonstrate through and through that you've done everything in your power and your capacity to solve the issue. You've done everything in your power and your capacity to try and fix it with the creditors directly, or the credit bureaus directly, or the debt collectors directly. In most instances, it's a very difficult scenario to be in. And because when you guys are trying to resolve these issues, right? When you guys are trying to do that, like I said, it's automated systems. It's systems that are outdated. And the reason why it's most of the times you're going to have issues is because those systems that they're leveraging and using, they're made to cut down redundancies, right? They're made to cut down redundant situations where you've been trying to solve the issue with them for a long time, and you've been trying to fix that with them for a long time, but yet it's almost impossible. And these systems are so outdated. Excuse me, there's a lot of wind right now. So these systems are so outdated that no matter how hard you try, most of the times it's just a repetitive redundancy. So by automation, it doesn't really solve the issue, right? By automation, it doesn't really fix the problem. So you're kind of stuck. And when you're stuck in a situation where you have no control over the outcome, the best recourse at that point is to get a third party that can actually help you enforce those systems to ensure that law is by means enforced and then followed and executed. So under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, there's something called a private right of action. And we spoke about this in the last video. And we discussed that, look, in order for you to actually have a private right of action, you need to have done a couple of steps beforehand in order to successfully sue the credit bureaus. Now, the CFPB has, like I said, this complaints database and portal. You should study it. You should go in it. You should find similar situations that you've tried to resolve and fix. And you should try to see where, what the issues are with those complaints and how you can mix and match and put it in your complaint and reference those complaint numbers to give it more weight and substance. Evidence is key. Now, when you log information about CFPB to CFPB and say, look, here's 5 different other complaints that are similar to mine. Here's their numbers. And I'm requesting that you please look into this because it doesn't seem like the creditor cares to comply with federal law. And here's exactly the steps that I've taken on my side to ensure that I followed every step in accordance to what is afforded to me as a consumer. So before I pursue the court and ask you to be part of that lawsuit, because you by law as CFPB should be part of it to ensure enforcement of law, and before we take it to court where your jurisdiction is to ensure that the compliance is taken care of, for you to be dragged into some minuscule thing in court saying that you failed to execute your rights and responsibilities as the CFPB, it would be a shame. And here's the reason why it's powerful to say these statements. Number one, it's because the first thing is, when you talk to CFPB in this matter, and when you explain to them the severity of the situation where if you were to go to court, and if you were to drag them in for failure to enforce compliance as the authority in the government that they are, it's a disaster waiting to happen. CFPB doesn't want their names in minuscule court cases just simply because they failed to tell a debt collector to validate properly, when it's their purview and their power to do so. So on the legislative and executive branch of the government, these things are reviewed and they look back to this for the CFPB when it comes to their rights and powers and how they should execute them. The less they have their names in court because of failure to enforce the law as it is their duty to do so, the better for that. So to prevent that, and if you have a very clear and articulate plan on how you're going to bring them into court because you've tried everything in your power to fix it, or you've shown and demonstrated your capacity as a consumer, that you've done everything you've done everything right from day one, I think this is where the power is, to be able to enforce the law, to be able to execute the law the proper way. So keep in mind, right? So again, just to go over the steps one more time, the first thing you absolutely need to do is figure out other complaints in the CFPB database similar to yours. Log those complaints, take a Word document, put them on, see what the similarities are. Reference those complaints in a document that you would attach with your complaint to the CFPB, in addition to every single step you've taken so far, with a clear write-up and a summary. Once you have done so, you need to explain to them that failure to continue fixing this will result in a law case, for you have all the grounds to make sure that you have full penalties enforced against the said perpetrators or whoever is not following the law, and that CFPB will become, in any case, a witness to this, because the complaint that you're filing with them will be used as part of that law case as evidence, and for them to fail to comply to enforce those laws, that it is their power to do so, would be a shame. And that's the way you should handle things with the CFPB, in short. Okay, so I just wanted to give you guys this video, give you context on how to go about handling things with the CFPB to ensure that you have all the right tools and arsenal in your war chest to be able to be successful in trying to get the resolution you need to fix your personal credit, so you don't have these negative things holding you back from your ideal credit score, so that you can live the life you guys deserve, right? With the economy and the way things are going and the way the credit systems are undergoing challenges, especially with the COVID situation, it's more than ever important to know how to expedite the results, how to get the best outcomes possible, and how to use law to your advantage so that you have all the rights and procedures to be able to execute them at the highest order. So I hope this video helped you guys out, give you some context on what to do, what the steps are to follow, and what are some of the ways to go about executing those powers the proper way, leveraging the CFPB and their powers to make sure that there's compliance that is handled, and that things are done in accordance to law the proper way. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to smash that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. A lot more videos to come up. And with that said, this is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafdar. Bye for now.